You are a warrior. It's time for you not to back up, not to give up, not to give in. Stop letting stuff derail you. Stop getting stuck. Every time life don't go your way, stop getting stuck. Stop quitting. Stop giving up. Keep fighting in the midst of the struggle. Keep fighting. Keep thinking positive. Keep going. You only lose when you quit. Remember what makes you different from the weak. The difference between the weak and the strong is that when the strong have no more left, they fight, they fight, they fight. The weak, they quit, they give up, they give in, and there's nothing weak about you. So I need you to fight your way through it.
Pretty soon, depending on the type of people you've associated with, distracted by your doubts within yourself. Never underestimate the power of influence and associations. And never underestimate the power of your own consistent self-discipline. Now let's take a closer look at discipline, at the 3 steps to becoming disciplined. First, true discipline is not the easiest option. Most people would rather sleep until 10 o'clock than get up at 6. It's easier to go to bed late, sleep late, show up late, leave early. It's easier not to read. It's easier to turn on the television than to open a book. It's easier to do just enough than to do it all. Waiting is always easier than acting. Crying is always easier than doing. Imagine what life would be like if we didn't have to make our bed in the morning, or keep our garage clean, or pay our taxes, or show up for work tomorrow. Wouldn't it be fascinating if we didn't have to do these things? Wouldn't it be fascinating? What do you suppose would become of us? You're right. Not much. Results. Every once in a while, you got to take a measure, see how you're doing. Now we take a measure called results. What is the results at the end of the day, the results at the end of the week? You can't let too much time go by without checking. 6 years I've been out there working when I met my teacher, Mr. Shope. Shope said, well, Mr. Rohn, let's just go through a little summary here. He said, in the last 6 years, how much money have you saved and invested? Let's go through a little tab list here. How much money have you saved and invested in the last 6 years? I said, what? 0. He said, you have messed up. He said, who sold you on that plan? I thought, my gosh, the man's right. I'm a nice guy. I bought the wrong plan. What if you were 50 and broke? Right? Didn't need to change countries. Bought the wrong plan. What a sad scenario that would be. But Shope said these questions. Let's go through some results. He said, how many books have you read in the last 90 days? I said, what? 0. Wisdom of the world available? Change your life, change your future? Wisdom of the world available? Develop any skill you want? Earn the kind of income you want? Have all the treasures you want, equities you want, relationship with your family that you want, everything that you want available, and the wisdom of the world to help you get it? Haven't read any books in the last 90 days. My teacher said, Mr. Rohn, you have messed up. I'm telling you, you've got the deal. Shope said, Mr. Rohn, in the last 6 months, how many classes have you taken to improve your skills or to develop new skills? Go for the American dream. Become rich and powerful and sophisticated and healthy and influential. How many classes have you taken in the last 6 months? I said, how many? 0. He said, you have messed up. He said, you don't need to unmess the country. You don't need to straighten out the perplexed. You don't need to straighten out any of this stuff. All you've got to do is look within and let results teach you a great deal about your own activity, your own attitude, and your own philosophy. I went through that process. Take this phrase home. Results is the name of the game. What other game is there?
If the peak is worth reaching, the climb is going to be hard. I know you're ready to give up. I feel you. You're ready to give in. You're like, I've never gone through this before. Or maybe you're at the darkest point of your life and you're ready to give up. You're at a point in your life where you feel like it's do or die. You're going through so much pain. You're going through so much agony. You're ready to give up. You're ready to quit. Listen to me very carefully. You are a warrior, and it's time for you to fight.
The rewards of a disciplined life are great, but they're often delayed until some time in the future. The rewards for the lack of discipline are immediate, but they are minor in comparison to the immeasurable rewards of consistent self-discipline. An immediate reward for lack of discipline is a fun day at the beach. A future reward of discipline is owning the beach. For most, we choose today's pleasure rather than tomorrow's fortune. So how can you get rid of the easy distractions? How can you keep your mind on what you're trying to do? How can you keep an attitude of doing it all and doing it now? How can you make the choice of discipline over procrastination? How can you stay focused on your ambitions? You can keep your focus on your work. You can get it done today instead of tomorrow. You've got to really work on your consistent self-discipline on a daily basis, or you'll find yourself distracted. Distracted by negative thoughts, distracted by negative people. No second chance. No, what would I do differently? Choose one or the other, but both will have their price, the price of discipline or the price of regret. One costs pennies, the other a fortune. The first lesson of discipline is that it isn't the easiest option. The second lesson of discipline is that it's a full-time activity. And we've said that the best form of discipline is consistent self-discipline. You see, the discipline that it takes to make your bed every day is the same discipline necessary for success in the world of business. The discipline to organize your garage is the same discipline to organize your business. All disciplines carry through to affect all parts of our lives. If we're disciplined in just one area and lazy in another, guess what? Pretty soon, the lazy side will creep in and destroy the disciplined side. The bad habits in one area of our life will eventually destroy our self-discipline in the areas we've been working on. Consistency cannot be inconsistent. Discipline is the mind being trained to control our lives. Discipline is a set of standards which we've selected as a personal code of conduct. Discipline is imposing on ourselves the requirements for honoring these standards. Once we've adopted these standards of behavior and conduct, we're committed to honor them. And if we don't, then there can be no disciplined activity. We find ourselves announcing our standards to our relatives, our friends, our associates. We shout our beliefs and condemn those who believe any differently, but then we don't walk the talk. We end up acting in a way far different from the beliefs we've shouted. We tell our kids that the TV is rotting their minds, yet we spend our evenings in front of it. We tell our employees that they must take advantage of every minute of the working day, yet we spend 3 hours at lunch. Do as I say, not as I do. This is inconsistent. This leads to a loss of credibility among those who watch us. And more importantly, this leads to a loss of credibility within ourselves. The only thing worse than one who is inconsistent in applying their self-imposed disciplines is one who has never considered the need or the value of discipline at all. These people seem to wander aimlessly, changing procedures, changing standards, changing loyalties, and shifting frequently from one commitment to another, leaving behind a trail of broken friendships, unfinished projects, and unfulfilled promises, all because of a discipline that was either non-existent or imposed so infrequently that it was ineffective. The system we live in and contribute to is designed to make the easiest things in life the most unprofitable. Profitable seems to be the most difficult. Our world is and always will be a constant battle between the life of ease and its momentary rewards and a life of discipline and its far more significant rewards. Each has its own price, the price of discipline or the price of regret. We will pay one or the other. What we wish we had done is the voice of regret, speaking in a sorrowful tone at a time when there is no going back. This is regret.
Here's all life asks us to do: make measurable progress in reasonable time. Just take home that little phrase, good phrase. We're asked in life simply to make measurable progress in reasonable time. We demand it of our children. How many years do you want your child to spend in 4th grade? Approximately. About 1. If it looks like they're not going to make it, we pour on the pressure. Call legitimate pressure. Lack of results. Peer pressure, family pressure, school pressure, community pressure. Every other kind of pressure we can bring to bear. What? You can't stay more than 1 year in 4th grade. What if they're nice kids? Wouldn't you give them 3 or 4 years? The answer is no. You got to make better progress than that. So you got to check fairly often. Some things you got to check every day. Some things you got to check at least by the end of the week. Salesman joins this little sales company. He's supposed to make 10 calls first week. Wouldn't it be legitimate? Call him in on Friday and say, John, what? How many calls? I mean, this stuff is simple. John says, well. You say, John, well won't fit in this little box here. Well. Now John starts with a story. You say, John, I made this little box so small so a story won't fit. I don't need a story. I need what? A number. A number. What will a number tell me? Everything. John's supposed to make 10 calls. What if he made 20? You say, wow. Wow. We got somebody. What if he only made 1 call? Whoa. Will that tell us something about John's philosophy? And the answer is yes. Will it tell us something about his attitude? Of course. Will it tell us something about his disciplines? Of course. And if he wants a lesson in life change, all he has to do is be willing to face numbers and come up with the results that will teach you to either celebrate if you got good results or fix whatever needs to be fixed in your philosophy, attitude, activity called discipline. You don't need to go anywhere else. I do believe in affirmations. They are valuable as long as you affirm the truth. Because it says in ancient scripts, the truth will set you free. Free to do what? Amend your errors and pick up new disciplines. That's what the truth is for, to help us amend our errors and pick up the disciplines for life change. That's what the truth is for. So I do believe in affirming the truth. If you're broke, the best thing to affirm is, I am broke. You put that up on the refrigerator where you can see it every day. That's how you do that.
I wish I had not waited 14 years. Somebody said if you want to lose something, lose money. You can get that back. 8 out of 10 millionaires have been financially bankrupt. Walt Disney filed bankruptcy 7 times and had 2 nervous breakdowns. But don't lose time. There were 14 years I sat on the sideline. 14 years I said, I don't have an investor in me like Tony Robbins. 14 years that said, I don't have an MBA or a PhD, and I can't compete with these guys. I have the complexion of rejection. And so I regret that, because there are some people that maybe if they'd heard my voice, they would not have turned to drugs. If they'd heard my voice, their lives would have taken a different direction. And I can't get those 14 years back. That haunts me, and I think that drives me when I speak with such energy. I'm trying to make up for that time, but I can't.
And this era that Fortune magazine has aptly called the era of possibilities. I want you to look out on your personal life and on your professional life. And I want you to think about something you want very badly. Just think about one goal that you'd like to achieve. Like my driving passion was to buy my mother a home, because I appreciated Mama adopting us. And I said, Mama, that's something I want to do for you. And I achieved that goal. And ladies and gentlemen, let me share something with you. There's nothing like doing something that you set out to do that gives your life some meaning and power and purpose. And that gave my life some meaning and power and purpose. And I'll never forget when we drove there and I gave her the key and she got out. She, oh my God, said nobody could have told me that you would have done this. And I was a bad one. I mean, I was a problem kid, you know. My mom used to wear my butt out. Said, I'll whoop your behind till the cows come home. I said, I hope they hurry up. But there was nothing like that achievement. Now, here's something I want you to do. Think about some goal you want to achieve. And I don't want you to worry about how you're going to do it. That's not important. Just shut up. Get that. How is none of your business. Because of our mental conditioning, ladies and gentlemen, we unconsciously build a case on why we can't do something. When I wanted to go in the area of motivation, I started building a case for myself. Les, you can't do that. You've never worked for a major corporation. You can't do that. You don't have any college training. You can't do that. You don't have the money. You don't have the contacts. You've never done that before. What makes you think that you can make more money in 1 hour than most people make working for 2 or 3 months? How many of you have ever wanted to do something? And just answer honestly. How many of you have ever wanted to do something and you talk you out of it? Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. All right. So you know that inner conversation. That's what I'm going to override tonight. All right. Now, by the way, when I get started, I get fired up. So don't pay me any attention. Let me take my coat off. I don't have much time, so I want to burn this up. Hold this for me. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. All I want you to do is hold the vision of what you want. I want you to think about that all the time. Hold the vision of what you want. Keep that in your mind's eye. I dreamed about constantly being on Robert Schuller's program. I thought about it all the time. See, ladies and gentlemen, our thoughts have power. Your thought is what you brought. So people don't realize that. See, we can't control the thoughts that come in our minds, but we can control the thoughts that we dwell on. So your thoughts have magnetism. And the most challenging thing is to discipline your thinking, to hold the vision of what it is that you want. That's the most difficult part. I saw myself on Robert Schuller's program. I saw myself being interviewed by Robert Schuller. I saw myself prepared to answer whatever question he asked. I was ready for him. I've been there 1,000 times in my mind. At the end of the program, he said, it feels like I've known you before, like we've been together before. I said, we have been spiritually and mentally. I've been following you for a long time. I thought about it. See, this is no game to me. It's no memorized speech to me. I live this. I believe you don't teach what you don't know, and you don't lead where you don't go. And most people, ladies and gentlemen, most of us go to our graves with our greatness in us. Most of us, ladies and gentlemen, most people, when they die, you can literally put under their names, dead but not used up yet. Because most people go through life holding back. Most people go through life not giving their all. Most people have their lives on hold. How many of you know you can do more than what you've been doing? Raise your hands, please. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that proves a point. That we know we can do more than what we're doing, and we're not doing it. Why? I couldn't understand that. I was born in Liberty City. I knew I can do more than what I was doing when I was working for the Miami Sanitation Department. When I used to go door to door selling television sets, no money down. When I was working for Sears when it was on Biscayne Boulevard. I knew I can do more than that. But I wasn't doing, I was stuck because we don't do what we know. What we do is we operate in the context of the vision that we have of ourselves. See, I couldn't see how to do more. I knew I could do it, but I couldn't see it for me. I believed it. I didn't know it, because if I knew it, I would have been manifesting it. So therefore, hold the vision of what it is that you want. The next thing is that whatever it is that you want to do, ladies and gentlemen, here's something that's very key for you. There must be on your part a willingness to do what is required, a willingness. If there are 75 things to do to achieve your goal, if there's one thing on that list of 75 that you're not willing to do, I guarantee you that's the first thing that will come up for you and will kick your butt.
Credit goes to our awesome patrons who make videos like this one possible. Consider joining them to support our work. You can also support us by subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell button to get notified when our new videos are released. And as always, thank you for watching.
Probably one of the most frustrating experiences in life is looking for an above-average job with above-average pay without becoming an above-average person. It's called frustration.
Whenever people fail to achieve their goals 99.9% of the time, and you ask them why, they'll tell you it's because of a lack of resources. That's what all these things are. I didn't have the support, right? I didn't have the money, we didn't have the time, we didn't have this, we didn't have that. There's a resource that people believe is missing. And that resource belief structure then keeps people from ever being able to really lead. Because Because what leaders do is they find a way to maximize whatever resources they have, as little as they may be, and they don't believe in limited resources. What are the emotions that make all this possible? What's the fuel that takes an idea from being in your head where you intellectually know what to do? How many have had an idea, for example, was a great idea, you're excited about it, and then you didn't do anything. One day, there you saw it on the shelf, you saw it somewhere else, someone stole your idea. How many have had this happen? Say aye.
Whenever you look at where you want to go, I'm wanting to warn you, you will have some conversation back here after you go through the data that you've experienced in life saying you can't do it. And so what you want to begin to do is ignore that inner conversation. Well, most people, ladies and gentlemen, when something happens to them, what they do is they begin to believe that that's the way it is. That's the way it's always been. And they can't see the possibility of it being any different.
What are you feeding on? Pay attention to what you're putting in your spirit. You're called to be an eagle, but sometimes we're acting like a chicken. Do you know a chicken will eat its own waste? A chicken feeds off of what's been discarded, off of what's supposed to be trash. Maybe that's why a chicken has wings, but it can't really fly. It holds on to what it should have released. You need to view the negative things in your life as waste. But you're not supposed to feed on it. It's over. You've been through it. You've eliminated it. Now move on. Don't go back to what you've released. If you're always feeding off of what's been discarded, reliving old hurts, thinking about what you've lost, that's going to keep you from flying.
And I'm saying that if you know anybody that had some goal, some dream, something they wanted to do, and they did it, then I'm saying that you know in your heart that if someone has done it, then you can do it. It's possible. And that if someone can make their dream become a reality, that it's possible that you can make your dream become reality. And so as you begin to look at where you want to go, beginning to embrace that, it's possible. I'm blessed and highly favored. I've got a lot going for me. I got some good stuff in me. And it's possible that I can bring my greatness out here in the universe. That I can do what I want to do. It's possible I can write my own book. I can have my own business. I can take the trip and travel around the world. It's possible. I can bounce back from adversity and reinvent my life. It's possible. Regardless of where I am, the things can get better for me. It's possible.
What direction is your attitude taking you? In your marriage, in your relationships? Are you kind, respectful, fun to be around? In your career, are you positive, being your best, helping others? Or do you need to make an adjustment? Don't wait till it's too late, till the relationship comes to an end, till the company says they don't need you anymore. Make the changes now. Get rid of anything you know that's holding you back. Being negative, finding fault, that old attitude doesn't smell good. It's going to taint you everywhere you go. This couple moved into a new neighborhood. One morning while they were eating breakfast, the lady looked out the window and saw her neighbor hanging the wash on the line to dry. And she noticed the wash was so dirty and so dingy. She said to her husband, "That neighbor doesn't know how to wash. The clothes aren't clean. She must not even use detergent." Week after week, she looked out this window and saw the clothes and made the same comments about how dirty the laundry was. One morning, she looked out the window and the clothes were as clean and bright as could be. She couldn't believe it. She called her husband in, said, "Look, she finally learned how to wash. I wonder what happened." The husband smiled and said, "Honey, I got up early this morning and cleaned our windows." The problem wasn't that the neighbor's laundry was so dirty. The problem was the window the lady was looking out was not clean. Many times, how dirty our neighbor's clothes are depends on how clean our window is. The scripture says, "To the pure, all things are pure." And if you're always finding fault, complaining about the traffic, critical of your spouse, may I suggest your window is dirty? The problem is not external, it's internal. You're looking through a tainted filter. At some point, we have to look in the mirror and say, maybe I'm the one that needs to change. Maybe I've developed a habit of seeing what's wrong rather than what's right. Maybe I've trained myself to be negative, disrespectful, hard to get along with. That's why it's so important every morning to put on this fresh, new attitude. I'm excited about this day. I don't have to go to work. I get to go to work. I'm grateful for this job. I'm not focusing on what's wrong. Lord, I want to thank you for what's right in my life. You know what you're doing? You're cleaning your windows.
Now, think of this for a moment. You and I have infinite potential. Now, I said before, I don't know how much infinite is. I just know it's a lot. Has no beginning and no end. That's the potential we've got. We've got all of this power, yet if you watch the way most people live, you would think that they were just about out of juice. A lot of people, when their heart stops beating, it's going to be a formality. I mean, they just sort of sit. They never really get it going. Yet we have infinite potential. We're dealing with something pretty big. If we're going to find out something about ourselves, we have to look at this. You say, this is over my head. No, it's not. I teach this to kids. I got it. This all tied into the science of getting rich. Rich resources are lying dormant within us. You and I are spiritual beings. There's only two sources of reference to go to find out anything about ourselves. One's science and the other's theology. You'll hear people say they're having a spiritual experience. They're not having a spiritual experience. They are spiritual. They're having a physical experience. We're spiritual beings living in physical bodies, and we've been gifted with an intellect. Most people really don't understand that part. But that's where the power lies. All right? And our emotional state is going to be determined by how we use our intellectual factors. Andrew Carnegie told Napoleon Hill, he said, any idea that's held in the mind, that's emphasized, that's either feared or revered, will begin at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate physical form that's available. You see, Dr. J.B. Ryan said the mind is the greatest power in all of creation. Very few people understand it. If you go on our website, you just go to bobproctor.com, you'll see a quote there by Dr. John Mike, a psychiatrist from Florida. He said, I taught him more about the mind in 1 year than he'd learned in 4 years of medical school, 5 years of psychiatric training. And what I taught him was just what a Dr. Roeder taught me. I was always amazed by that. I thought, what do they teach you in medical school? You know, and what we're doing is getting in at the non-physical side of ourselves, and that's where all the power lies. It's a beautiful concept as we start to understand it. What do we need? We need understanding. You really want to change your income, you've got to change your understanding. Now, there's only two things you have to know to really make things happen big in your life. Number one, you have to know where you are, and number two, you have to know where you're going. Now, you see, most programs get you focused on where you're going. That's very important that we have a goal. You've got to know where you're going. But what happened to me that was totally different is Ray Stanford got me to focus first on where I was. He got me to look at what I was doing with my life, got me to take responsibility. He said, your results aren't bad and they're not good, they're just results. Nothing's bad or good except our thinking makes it so. He said, you have to ask yourself, are those the results you want? And I said, no. Well, he said, if you will pay attention and you'll do what I suggest, I can show you how to change it. You see? And my whole life started to change. Most people get us focused on the goal. If we don't know where we're at, we're not going to... Let's suppose we all bail out of a plane and safely land somewhere on the planet. Our objective is to get to this room. Now, we know where this theater is. We know where this room is. Our problem is we don't know where we are. Now, let's say it's overcast. We'll build a ridiculous situation. It's overcast. There's no street signs. There's no wind. There's no compass. There's no map. There's no people. But we know we're on the north. I mean, we could be in Milwaukee heading towards the Canadian border. We could be in Los Angeles heading towards Tijuana. You could be in Atlanta heading towards Miami. We could be right outside this theater and walk away from it. If we don't know where we are, it won't matter where you're going. So you see, we've got to take a good, honest look at ourselves. What am I doing? What works? What doesn't? Who am I? And as we really get a grip on this, everything in our world will begin to change. You see, what we're seeking always is greater awareness. We're always wanting to raise our level of awareness because our results are an expression of our level of awareness. And the only way to improve results is to increase our level of awareness. All right? Now, effective goals inspire us to move to increasingly higher levels of awareness. Now here, yes, what you'll find that people say they want. They want greater health, happiness, peace of mind. All these results are the result of a higher level of awareness. So it's awareness that we should be seeking. We want to raise this and everything else starts to happen. It happens like unadulterated magic. That's what happened to me and I couldn't understand it. Now there's a basic law that said everything in life is either growing or dying. It's either create or disintegrate. So you're never going to stay where you are. Your results are going to get better or they're going to get worse. It's create or disintegrate. No one stays where they are. Now the truth is, I think most people get a little better and a little worse, a little better and a little worse. When they get a little better, they're forcing it, but force negates. You see, there's something inside of you that's urging you to grow. This is the spiritual side of our personality. It's the essence of our being, and spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression. There's something in you that wants you to grow. If you run, you want to run faster. If you jump, you want to jump higher. If you sell, you want to sell more. This is good. It causes dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction is a creative state. My grandmother pretty well raised me, and she taught me that I should be satisfied with what I've got. Grandma was wrong. I should be happy with what I've got, but never satisfied. It's dissatisfaction that gave us the incandescent light. It's dissatisfaction that gave us air travel. It's dissatisfaction that gave us the internet. All those things were always here. People just became aware of them. Way to fly an airplane was always here. We can go all over the world now. We're not a long ways from anywhere. We're only a short period of time away. Well, there's something inside wanting us to grow. There's something else that's trying to stop us. And that's the old paradigm. Now, you've got the one side that wants you to grow and the other side that doesn't want you to grow. The old paradigm does not want you to grow. Anyone that has smoked and quit smoking, I used to smoke. I quit years ago. But I remember it wasn't an easy thing to do. It was not. Why? Because it was a habit. Habits are not easy to get rid of. Habits are ideas that are fixed in here that control us. Many of you have gone on diets. You want to lose weight. I'll just toss something in for your benefit. When you lose something, you're programmed to do what? To look for it. Get rid of the idea of losing weight. Release it. Release it. See yourself at your perfect weight, looking good and feeling great. Your whole life is controlled by images. Get the image of the body that you want to live in, of the world you want. Quit trying to lose weight. Just release it and see yourself the way you want to be.
What do successful people do that's different from other people?
Success leaves clues. If someone has done very well financially for decade after decade, they're not lucky. They're doing something different. If someone is fit and healthy and they've managed it for 20 years, they're lucky. They got a great relationship. They're not lucky.
One of the things that we find is that successful people, all of them, are very action-oriented. In other words, if they get an idea, they move quickly on it. If they learn something new, they try it out. Now people say, well, what if it doesn't work? Well, if it doesn't work, find out quickly. There's a rule that says try quickly and fail fast.
If somebody's wealthy and happy, you've got a list for things to change for you. You've got to change. Otherwise, it isn't going to change.
Resources are interesting, but the ultimate resources are the feelings of emotion that make you resourceful. Resourcefulness is the ultimate resource.
The wonderful thing is that you can't lose by trying something new. So if you were to take successful people, and there's many studies that have been done on this, if you could only look at them through a window and look at a group of people, look through the window, you could tell who the successful people are because they're always in motion. They're always trying more things. They're always active. Unsuccessful people are always waiting for everything to be just right. It's like waiting for a bus on a street where no buses go. They're still waiting. Where the bus never comes. Successful people are always taking action. So if all you do is just take more action, just get busier, you'll be more successful.
It's possible to do much better at the marketplace if you go to work primarily on yourself. Learning to work primarily on yourself. How do you develop an above-average income? And the answer is, become an above-average person. Develop an above-average handshake. Some people want to be successful. They don't even work on their handshake. As easy as that would be to start on. They let it slide. They don't understand. Develop an above average smile. Develop an above average excitement. Develop an above average interest in other people. Develop an above average intensity to win. See, that'll change everything.
Forced into great introspection, existential questions of, who, what, where, when, and why, and how. I didn't have a crutch. I didn't have my car. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't have a job. I didn't have money. I didn't have my parents. I didn't have friends. And I was lost in trying to find a bit of a compass and an anchor. And some odd things were going on for me in my relationships with some people there where I was questioning my own sanity. And that moment where I was asked to call someone mom and pop, in my chaotic life and my anarchic brain that I was living in at the time, that was the first bit of real clarity that I was like, no, that is not open for discussion. All these other odd things that have been happening to me, I've been tallying up to, it must be a cultural difference. It must be a cultural difference. This was something that I went, culture my backside, Ben. I don't care, place, time, whatever. That's not negotiable for me. So I said no. And it was very clear, and it gave me clarity. It gave me some identity, and it was just an obvious thing to deny. That really helped with my sanity. Something that was so clear to me that was black and white. I needed that at that time in my life. It's hard to find those things in life in general. Don't trip yourself and face plant because it's going too good. Don't get nervous. No, embrace it and stay in stride because the uphill will be there in a minute and you'll have to break a sweat and it'll be hard again. It's also about not creating false drama when it's not needed. And I see a lot of people do that, and I've fallen susceptible to it as well. The drama's going to come. Look, we all like pleasure over pain, but I think what we forget sometimes is that there's a greater pleasure that can come with going through a pain. If you go through resistance and you choose resistance at the right times, and you go through it, you have greater, more evolved pleasure on the other side of it. Look at the world a lot of our young people are living in. We're all connected, but nobody's with each other. Their world is massive. They have more outreach than any of us ever have, but they're more isolated than ever before. So it's inevitable, human nature. Me, I'm betting you, I feel sound with myself. My spirit feels good. I got 3 children and a wife. But even I'll have a different reaction if you give me a thumbs up on my comment or a thumbs down. That like, dislike comment that you put today, that's gonna outlive you. It's immortal, it's permanent. You and I are not permanent. That comment is. Think about before you click and what you put out. Are you putting out something today that you're gonna look forward to looking back at? Are you putting out something today in your resume of life that is going to write your eulogy after you're gone, which is going to introduce you forever when you're gone? Think about it. It can affect you. And so a lot of our youth is living in that world where their emotional feelings about themselves and their own identity is based off your reaction, strangers' reactions, some of them which may not have even read or cared about what you were actually putting out and didn't care about the intent. And that can affect you. There's a responsibility to that world that millennials live in it. They need to edit and govern back themselves with what they allow themselves to be out there. Proverbial naked they are, to like I'm sharing it all with the world. I'm sending it out to a bunch of strangers, and they're going to come back to me and let me know who I am. Would I be sitting here right now talking to you with the life I have? I'm very confident that I would have had some sort of enriched life that I felt satisfied and felt joy in living if I'd have been doing something else. But at the same time, those moments, what I can really speak to is that I manned up. I remember things that were mortal in life that I had reverence for. Fame, money, success, people. And all of a sudden, while I still respected them, instead of looking up at all of them, they came down.
The reason that I think people believe what I say is that I'm very pessimistic. Most times when you listen to someone who's a motivational speaker, let's say, it fills you with a temporary optimism, but you go home and the wiser part of you knows that mostly it's the painting over of rotten wood with a fresh coat of paint. And I tell my audiences very clearly that their life is going to be difficult, and sometimes difficult beyond both imagining and tolerance, and that is definitely in your future, if it isn't in your present. And for many people, it's in their present, and that that can be unbearable, that enough to turn you against life itself, to corrupt you, to drive you to nihilism, to drive you to suicide, and worse, to drive you to thoughts of vengefulness, of infinite scope, to not only be turned against yourself and your fellow men, but to be turned against being itself because of its intrinsically brutal, in some sense, nature. And that it's worse than that, actually, because it's not only that we suffer and that will necessarily occur, but that we all make our suffering worse because of our ignorance and our malevolence. And everyone knows that to be true. And so the discussions start, let's say, on an unshakable foundation. But then I can tell people, look, despite that, we're remarkable creatures. You know, we're capable of taking up the burden of that suffering and facing the reality of that malevolence voluntarily. We can actually do that. And all of the psychological evidence suggests, and this is independent of your school of psychology, if you're a practical psychologist, a clinical psychologist of any sort, the evidence is crystal clear that if people voluntarily confront the problems that face them and the malevolence that surrounds them, that they can make headway against it. And not only psychologically. So it's not only meaningful to do that psychologically, which it is, to confront the problems that torment you voluntarily. That's meaningful psychologically. But it's also practically useful in that you can actually solve some of the problems that beset you. And God only knows how good we could get at that. You know, I mean, I don't know what percentage of human effort is spent in counterproductive activity. You know, I'm not an absolute cynic about that, but I mean, when I talk to undergraduates, I ask them, you know, how much time do you waste every day by your own reckoning? And it's somewhere between 5 and 8 hours. I walked the students through an economic analysis of that. I said, well, you know, why don't you value your time at $50 an hour and calculate for yourself just exactly what you're doing to your future by your inability to discipline yourself. It's worth thinking through. In any case, people do waste a lot of time, and they also act counterproductively a lot of the time. Regardless, we do make progress, and we can thrive under the difficult conditions that make up our lives, and we can resist the malevolence that entices us. That's within our power, and we don't know the limits to that. And we also know that it's better to, we all know this, that it's better to live courageously than cowardly. And you can tell that too, because that's also what you tell people that you love. And we know that you should pick up your damn responsibility and move forward. Everyone knows that. It's part of our intrinsic moral nature.